a very good morning and welcome to a brand new edition of Breakfast News. I am Nancy Kohli and with me is my colleague Anil Thomas. Good morning, Anil. And over the next 1 hour, we'll get you all the news from across the nation, world, sports and business updates. We'll get you all that's making it to the headlines this morning, and there's much more, from the world of business as well. So all the updates in the next 1 hour. Stay with us. We'll get you more also from across the web.
Well, lots to look forward to. Yes, we cut all the noise and get you facts as it happens on the ground. We'll look forward to all the big developments that took place overnight and also for the day. The two big events by the Prime Minister. Also in the field of sports, Liverpool back to winning ways in Champions League and Barcelona getting a drubbing at home. So lots to look forward to also from the Australian Open, the first Grand Slam of the year. But let's get started with the top headlines that we are tracking at the top of this hour.
Prime Minister Modi meets COP26 President designate Alok Sharma. The Prime Minister expresses commitment to working with the British Prime Minister to further strengthen the India-UK ties. Prime Minister reiterates India's commitment to the Paris Agreement.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi to address NASSCOM Technologies and Leadership Forum this afternoon. Theme of the forum is shaping the future towards a better normal. Forum, a vibrant platform to bring together key leaders from the world of technology and innovation.
India to take one more step towards becoming Atmanirbhar in the energy sector. The Prime Minister to lay the foundation stone for key projects of the oil and gas sector in Tamil Nadu and to also dedicate those to the nation.
In a horrific Sidhi road accident in Madhya Pradesh yesterday, death toll reaches 47. Prime Minister approves an ex gratia of 2 lakh each for the next of kin of those who have lost their lives and 50,000 to those seriously injured.
And in sports news, Liverpool's great performance in the Champions League. In the first leg of the round of 16, RB Leipzig lost with 2-0. At the same time, PSG defeated Barcelona with 4-1 in their own house with the help of a hat-trick of Mbappe. And those were the top stories. Let's now get you our main story. We're beginning first with Prime Minister's interaction there with the COP26 designate.
Well, that's the top story there. Prime Minister Narendra Modi interacted with the President of COP26, the British MP Alok Sharma, on Tuesday. The PM conveyed his best wishes for the successful organisation of the event to be held in Glasgow in November and reiterated India's commitment to the Paris Agreement. UK welcomes India's significant progress in climate action and clean energy transition and hailed Prime Minister Modi's leadership in setting up the International Solar Alliance.
आज भारत इस विषय पर सिर्फ बात करने नहीं बल्कि एक व्यवहारिक सोच और रोड मैप के साथ आया है. We believe that an ounce of practice is worth more than a ton of preaching.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressing the Climate Action Summit in 2019 during the 74th session of the UN General Assembly. Increasing the share of non-fossil fuels, increase our renewable energy capacity to much beyond 175 gigawatts by 2022 and later till 450 gigawatts, making the transport sector green through e-mobility, increasing the proportion of biofuel blend in petrol and diesel are some action points spelled out by the Prime Minister in September 2019. When the COP26 President-designate and UK's former Minister Alok Sharma called on the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, discussions on India-UK cooperation on climate change agenda were held. The UK holds the presidency of COP26 this year, and Alok Sharma's visit to India will see him discuss strategies to strengthen the UK-India climate partnership and prepare for a successful COP26 summit in November. He also met Environment Minister Prakash Javadekar at Paryavaran Bhavan. Prakash Javadekar conveyed that India looks forward to the UK leadership to deliver on the unresolved issues of the Paris Agreement, including long-term climate finance and other key issues. The two leaders discussed strides that India has taken in promoting non-renewable energy and reducing carbon emissions.
We discussed all issues which are contemporary and which are important for negotiations in Glasgow, and I showcased him and told about various initiatives taken by India under dynamic leadership of Narendra Modi on renewables, on disaster resilient infrastructure, on adaptation, and on electrical buses, on metro expansion, our reduction of emission intensity, and increasing tree cover.
In the recently concluded budget session of Parliament, Environment Minister apprised the Lok Sabha of India's achievements towards fulfilling its commitment to the Paris Agreement.
Out of these 150 years emissions, India's contribution is just 3%. So we are not responsible for the problem. We want to be part of solution. And therefore, our Prime Minister has led from the front and has started massive renewable program. And as you know, as of today, we have 90,000 megawatt, 90 gigawatt of renewable power, and our energy capacity mix today has 37% of renewable component.
Alok Sharma's visit to India is his first visit to Asia as COP president. The UK welcomes India's significant progress on climate action and clean energy transition. This includes PM Modi's global leadership in setting up the International Solar Alliance and the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure. UK is a co-chair of CDRI. Alok Sharma, who was earlier Secretary of State for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, is expected to highlight the huge opportunities in the low-carbon economy as well as push for corporate climate action. As the COP president, Alok Sharma has his task cut out for him.
We all know that we must act now on climate change. If we do not, the consequences will be almost unimaginable. Crops failing, nature devastated, and hundreds of millions threatened by rising seas. To avoid this, it is vital to decarbonize the energy sector, which accounts for around 2/3 of global emissions. And so I'm asking governments around the world to do three key things to achieve this. First, raise ambition and action at home. Second, invest in clean recoveries in response to the COVID pandemic. And third, work together to make progress on our climate ambitions.
India and the UK share many common priorities on climate action and are working closely together to ensure action in the run-up to COP26 and beyond. Priority themes at COP26 with great potential for collaboration include adaptation and resilience, corporate action, green finance, clean growth and technology, and nature-based solutions. The United Kingdom's presidency of COP26 in 2021 and India's presidency of the G20 in 2023 provide important platforms for driving global action and implementing the Paris Agreement. With Shailendra Mishra, DD India.
The 29th edition of the NASSCOM Technology and Leadership Forum is being organized from today till the 19th of this month. Now, this is the flagship event of the National Association of Software and Service Companies. Prime Minister Modi will address the forum today via video conferencing. While this is a vibrant platform that brings together the key leaders from the world of technology and innovation. The event will host 1,600 participants from more than 30 countries and more than 30 products will be showcased during the 3 days of the talks. Now, this forum 2021, with the overarching theme Shaping the Future Towards a Better Normal, aims to achieve three key objectives, and those are marking as a celebration of technology which has served as a backbone to boost businesses during the COVID crisis. Also drawing a roadmap for the way ahead towards building a better future and bringing out the importance of trust and responsible technology in the hyper-virtual world. February 2021 marks the 29th year of NASSCOM Technology and Leadership Forum, a platform which has been the voice of the $190 billion industry ecosystem. And let's now go across to our correspondent Arun Sharma, who is joining us with more updates on the forum that's going to be taking place today. Arun, good morning. This is going to be a very important one because, of course, this will be drawing a roadmap ahead, focusing on the importance of technology and a responsible technology in that. And also, this is going to be how really this is going to be a collaborative learning experience for the industry leaders who will be discussing the very pressing topics.
That's right, Nancy. Indeed, it's very much significant looking at the fact that we are entering in a new era of a post-COVID world,
right,
and also a new decade that starts from 2021 till 2030. So the idea primarily over here is that, that how can the tech startups or the tech or the IT services in our country can be given a major platform, how can they can be incentivized and can be provided with conducive environment so that they can contribute more. Now, as far as tech startups are concerned, you'll be surprised to know that during the COVID pandemic time, 1,600 tech startups were added in the Indian startup ecosystem. In all, we have close to 12,500 tech startups. And out of which the surprising fact is that 37 are the unicorn startups in our country, out of which 12 unicorns were created during the pandemic time. A unicorn startup is a startup which has a valuation worth more than $1 billion. So gradually, India is becoming a favorable tech startup destination globally as well. So the idea is that how can a better platform be provided to these startups and IT-enabled services? Well, any IT-enabled services or the tech startup requires three important aspects whenever they want to grow. Number one is incubation part. So if in case any tech startup or IT-enabled service is looking for, incubating parts, so how can big corporates, the government sector primarily can incubate these startups? That's the requirement. And this platform will provide, an important link as far as, incubation part is concerned. Second is, of course, the financing part. We have seen that how in last 6.5 years, government has ensured that how startups in our country, the tech startups primarily in our country, can be incentivized. So various tax holidays, tax incentives have been given by the government so that this tech or IT-enabled services or the tech startups, can be given a major incentives. Government has done various policy level changes. So now, the IT-enabled services or the IT services, the people or the employee can work from anywhere. Not only from work from home, but work from anywhere in the country. So that's the policy tweak the government has done. Earlier, the infrastructure used to be required as far as IT companies are concerned, but now government has done major policy change whereby the employees can work from anywhere. So this actually saves the money for the tech startups or the IT companies. Last but not the least, it's about the marketing and of course the branding part. So these kind of platform will provide a big branding because 30 products will be showcased from 30 countries. 1,600 participants are participating.
Right.
So how can these tech startup, the products primarily can solve the post-COVID world the challenges, and how can they contribute as far as the agri-tech startups are concerned, education tech startups are concerned. So in that context, this event is going to be very much significant.
Okay, Arun, put this into perspective. How big is this, how big is this industry that we're looking at, that the Prime Minister is addressing to purely in terms of volumes?
So talking about the statistical part, the NASSCOM has recently given a forecast that despite the challenges and the revenue, the kind of expenditure that tech startups are looking forward, or the IT services are looking forward, a growth of 2.3% is expected in the next fiscal primarily. When we talk about this entire industry, the IT services are not limited to the internet technology services. They have expanded their purview to the artificial intelligence part, robotics part, Internet of Things part, and this industry is gradually growing. I mean, you can expect a 1 lakh crore of investment in artificial intelligence and of course the Internet of Things and of course, the robotics part going forward in next 4 to 5 years. And the tech startups are contributing immensely. As I mentioned earlier, the kind of unicorn startup that India is given is, is immensely appreciating factor because, close to 16 unicorn startups were created only in the pandemic time. We have added 1,600 tech startups during the COVID pandemic time. So the kind of ecosystem that Indian government is providing, that is actually benefiting the tech startups and of course the IT services in our country. The kind of initiatives like Atmanirbhar Bharat App Innovation Challenge, that was initiated by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. That has also given a bigger platform to these IT-enabled services and tech startups. So in that context, this is going to be very much important. And what is the vision of Prime Minister Narendra Modi for this new decade and for this post-COVID world as far as startups and IT services are concerned? That is going to be very much significant.
Sure.
Okay, one quick word before I let you go. Especially in this hyper-virtual world that we all, reside in, do you feel that, NASSCOM now has a bigger role to play purely in terms of trust and responsible technology?
Well, data security and cyber security, that is what is on the prime focus and the agenda of the government of the IT, or government of primarily the IT ministry of our country. We know this fact that as technology is growing, the risk or the chances of the cyber threat, the cyber security primarily is becoming of prime importance. So as India is looking forward to become Atmanirbhar, primarily in the IT services part, or of course in the applications or in the robotics or artificial intelligence part, it is also important that India works on the data security part and cyber security part. So when we look at these 30 products that are going to be showcased, majority of these products will be dedicated as far as cyber security, data security is concerned. So in that context, this event is very much important because today world will be looking forward for solutions as far as data security is concerned and cyber security is concerned. As far as India is concerned, CERN is playing a significant role as far as cyber security is concerned. So how can more tech startups in our country can contribute as far as data security and cyber security is concerned? In that context, this is going to be very much important because various startups are contributing and working and innovating as far as the data security and cyber security is concerned. Anil?
Okay, we'll leave it there. Thank you and appreciate you joining us this morning. You have a busy day ahead. We'll come back to you for more updates as and when that particular event with the Prime Minister begins this afternoon.
And with that, let's move on now to our next focus of the day. And this is in fact taking yet another step towards becoming self-reliant in the energy sector.
Well, talking about the next event that's in line today, that's India is going to take one more step towards becoming Atmanirbhar in the energy sector. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will dedicate to the nation and lay the foundation of key projects of the oil and gas sector in Tamil Nadu today via video conferencing. Prime Minister will dedicate to the nation the Ramanathapuram Thotikudi natural gas pipeline and the gasoline desulfurization unit at the Chennai Petroleum Corporation Limited. Prime Minister Modi will also lay the foundation stone of the Kaveri Basin refinery at Nagapattinam. These projects will result in substantial socio-economic benefits and will boost the country's march towards becoming self-reliant in the energy sector. Governor and Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu and Union Minister for Petroleum and Natural Gas will also be present on the occasion.
Now, the Union Minister for Road Transport and Highways, Nitin Gadkari, said the work on the 250-kilometer-long expressway project between Chennai and Bangalore will be awarded this year, which is estimated to cost 15,000 crore rupees. He was addressing the media in Chennai on Tuesday. The minister said that the project will reduce the travel time between the two cities to less than 3 hours and has been accorded priority by the ministry.
We are making 3 green express highway in Tamil Nadu. One is Bangalore-Chennai Expressway. It is totally distance between Bangalore to Chennai is 250 kilometers. It is divided into 10 packages, out of which bids for 8 packages have been received. And within a month we will receive other 2 packages bid. The work is targeted to award this year, but we are trying to award it as early as possible, even before code of conduct. But still we don't have the clearance from the forest and environment. That is the reason. The cost of this project is 15,000 crore.
Well, in an important step, Indian Railways, in line with the continuous increase in passenger services, has decided to start 35 unreserved mail and express special trains from 22nd of February this year to ensure passengers' convenience. Union Railway Minister Piyush Goyal in a tweet posted the proposed trains and their expected timetable.
In some other news now, the Enforcement Directorate has attached assets worth 17.66 crore rupees of Amnesty International India Limited. Now, despite the FCRL license of the Amnesty being cancelled by the government, it took 51.72 crore rupees from the foreign entity Amnesty International UK in the name of import or export, while Amnesty International UK itself donates. The Enforcement Directorate has also filed a charge sheet in the Panchkula industrial plot allocation case against 22 accused, including the former Haryana Chief Minister Bhupendra Singh Hooda. It is alleged that in the year 2013, 14 plots worth 30 crore rupees were wrongly distributed to the people close to Hooda. The ED has attached all the 14 plots.
Meanwhile, in a horrific accident which took place in Madhya Pradesh's Sidhi district on Tuesday, 47 people have died while 4 others are still missing. Search and rescue operations resumed in the early morning today. A bus carrying over 50 passengers fell into a canal in Sidhi district on Tuesday after the driver lost control over the vehicle. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and other senior leaders expressed their condolences to the bereaved families. Prime Minister Modi, while expressing deep shock over the accident, announced 2 lakhs each to the kin of the deceased from the PM National Relief Fund and 50,000 rupees to the injured. Prime Minister's office in a tweet said, and I quote, "Bus accident in MP Sidhi is horrific."
An update now from Uttarakhand, where so far 58 bodies have been found in the Chamoli disaster. 2 more dead bodies were found last night. 31 out of 58 bodies have been identified so far, while no information has so far been received about the remaining 27 bodies. It is believed that a total of 204 people are still missing in the unfortunate incident, where search is still going on. The evacuation work for those trapped in the debris is still going on in the Tapawan tunnel. So far, 145 meters have been excavated. The NDRF team has reached the vertical tunnel under the main tunnel through the vertical drill. There is also a possibility of the employees of the Tapawan Power project getting stranded. The water has been pumped out from the tunnel by pumping. The search and rescue operation still going on in the Tapi village with the Raini.
While heading down south, in an important development in Puducherry, the President has directed that Kiran Bedi shall cease to hold the office of the Lieutenant Governor of Puducherry and has appointed Dr. T. Soundarajan, Governor of Telangana, to discharge the functions of the Lieutenant Governor of Puducherry in addition to her own duties with effect from the date she assumes charge of her office until regular arrangements for the office of Lieutenant Governor of Puducherry are made.
And moving on now to our next focus, the Foreign Secretary Harshvardhan Shringla has arrived in Moscow on a 2-day visit. And on his arrival to Moscow, the Foreign Secretary said that travelling in these COVID times gives an indication the importance we attach to relationship with Russia. This is also the first abroad visit of the Foreign Secretary in this year. He'll be meeting with the Deputy Foreign Minister and also discussing all the gamut of the bilateral relationship.
I'm very happy to be here in this beautiful city of Moscow. This is the first visit I've made outside India in this new year. And traveling in these COVID times gives an indication of the importance we attach to our relations with Russia. I'm looking forward to my meeting with my counterpart, Deputy Minister Morgulov, tomorrow. I'm sure it will be a very, very fruitful and productive discussion. I'm also meeting academics, media personnel, get a little bit of taste of Russian culture. And on the whole, I think we are on our way to see how we can add momentum to an already vibrant relationship, a very strong India-Russia special and privileged strategic partnership.
While the visit is aimed at putting in place the framework for Russian President Vladimir Putin's visit to India later this year for the annual summit between the two countries. The summit could not take place last year due to situation arising due to COVID-19. And let's now go across to our correspondent Amritpal Singh to get more perspective as far as the Foreign Secretary's visit to Moscow is concerned. Amrit, good morning. India, they're re-engaging with its oldest strategic partner, there Russia. And like the Foreign Secretary mentioned, adding further momentum to the already vibrant strategic partnership between India and Russia.
Absolutely, Nancy. It's called a special privileged strategic partnership that India has with Russia. It's not defense is the key pillar of that partnership, but it's not just limited to just defense. It's technology, it is education, it is cooperation in the times of pandemic, in COVID vaccines. During this visit, especially as India looks at giving approval to the Russian-made Sputnik 5 vaccine, that will be a key on the agenda. So the entire gamut of bilateral relations will be discussed. As the Foreign Secretary himself said that this is his first foreign visit in this year. So one can understand the importance that is being attached to the visit. So he will engage with his counterpart, the Deputy Foreign Minister there and hold Foreign Office consultations with him. He will also call on the other Deputy Foreign Minister of Russia. As you said, basically the two sides will be laying framework for the annual bilateral summit where President Vladimir Putin visits India this year. Defense, as I said, would be the key. The S-400 missile systems, the air defense systems which are expected to be delivered to India by the end of this year will come up. Any fine-tuning that is required there would be discussed. Apart from that, the AK-203 contract negotiations will happen further on that. Sputnik 5 is going to figure, it will be a key element in the Foreign Office consultations that two sides hold. So really the entire gamut of bilateral relations will be discussed between the two sides during this visit of the Foreign Secretary.
Okay, now Amrit, you laid out the broader picture for us, but purely talking in terms of Sputnik 5, do you feel that's going to be a major part of discussion, considering that there is a likelihood that we would give authorization for Sputnik 5 to be used in India very soon?
That's right, Anil. As India is looking at giving authorization probably by the end of this week or early next week, this would be a key factor because given the huge demand of vaccines both within the country and the fact that India has already taken on the role of producing vaccines in at a mass level to distribute to the world. So Sputnik 5 is going to be a major part of the discussions. India, as you know, has emerged as a pharmacy of the world. So India would want to cooperate with every country so that given our large pharma infrastructure, we could be helpful in producing that vaccine and distributing it to the world.
Okay. All right, Amrit, thanks very much for joining us for the moment and putting all those developments into perspective for us. We'll be closely tracking the Foreign Secretary's visit there to Moscow. There is important agenda clearly on the table there. Let's move on now. Yeah.
Well, surely staying with external affairs and moving on to the next story in External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar had a virtual meeting with the Foreign Minister of Cyprus on Tuesday. During that particular discussion, Cyprus conveyed its decision to join the International Solar Alliance, that's the ISA. Both ministers also discussed a wide range of regional and multilateral issues, especially in the context of India's membership in the UNSC. India-EU relationships were also discussed. Both sides agreed to work closely in the context of the forthcoming India-EU Leaders Summit proposed to be held in Portugal in May 2021. Possibilities of cooperation to counter the COVID pandemic were also discussed.
Now moving on, very detailed videos were on Tuesday released by the Indian Army of the disengagement process at the north and the south banks of Pangong Tso. While these videos show the PLA troops dismantling their tents and bunkers. Our correspondent Amritpal Singh brings us more on what has happened so far.
The disengagement process between the two armies, that is the Indian Army and the Chinese PLA at the LAC along the north and south of Pangong Tso in eastern Ladakh is going on as per agreement. The Indian Army put out pictures and videos showing the Chinese army going back, their troops walking back to their vehicles near the nearest roadhead, the Chinese PLA dismantling their temporary structures that they had built, their tents, their bunkers, their sanghas. JCB was seen dismantling these temporary structures, and the Chinese PLA is withdrawing to Finger 8 as agreed. The Indian Army is also moving to the point called Dansing Thapa Point near Finger 4. That is the agreement that was reached between the two armies on the 10th of February, which Defence Minister Rajnath Singh had announced in Parliament. While this is going on at the Pangong Tso, there are other friction points along the LAC which remain unresolved, like the Depsang and Demchok. It is hoped that in the further military talks, for which a date hasn't been put as of now, these friction points could be resolved. But right now, the disengagement process is going on as agreed on the 10th of February. Amritpal Singh, DD India.
Well, Niti Aayog member Dr. V.K. Paul has said that 24 countries have been sent COVID-19 vaccine from India so far.
I appeal to each one of our healthcare workers who have taken the first dose to please come for the second dose at the appropriate time and be part of the national mission to complete the vaccination of the priority groups in 7 to 8 months that we have all decided as a mission to be accomplished. 24 countries have been sent vaccine from the Indian soil.
Meanwhile, DG ICMR said that the South African strain of COVID-19 has been detected in 4 returnees from South Africa in India. All travellers and their contacts are tested and quarantined.
This emerged independently in South Africa and was first reported in South Africa in mid-December 2020. Now this has multiple mutation of the receptor binding domain of the spike protein. The earlier one was spike protein mutations. Here the receptor binding domain of the spike protein has these variations, and majority of the cases of South Africa today are due to this variant strain, and this has spread to 44 countries. In India, the strain has been detected in 4 South Africa returnees in January 2021.
And India continues to achieve new milestones in the fight against COVID pandemic. The Health Ministry Secretary informed that COVID-19 vaccination coverage to healthcare and the frontline workers has crossed 88.5 lakh doses.
87,40,595 people have been vaccinated so far. These are healthcare workers and frontline workers. अब इस 87 लाख में से कितने हेल्थ केयर वर्कर इनोकुलेट हुए? वो 62,82,646 है.
And after all that news from across the nation, let's move on now and shift our focus to all the updates taking place across the world in our next segment around the globe.
Well, starting first up with Hong Kong, where an advisory panel on Tuesday recommended the emergency use of the Chinese vaccine Sinovac in Hong Kong, a semi-autonomous city region where Beijing has tightened its grip last year. The decision, after resisting it for months due to lack of peer-reviewed data, is expected to pave the way for the local government to authorize its use in the city. The Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine, the only formally approved COVID-19 vaccine in Hong Kong, for now was required to have published results in a medical journal before being examined by the advisory panel. It is to be noted that the World Health Organization, that's WHO, is yet to approve the Sinovac vaccine.
And the developments taking place in Myanmar, the military junta has filed another set of charges against the detained Myanmarese leader Aung San Suu Kyi in its latest repressive step to stifle democracy since the 1st of February coup. But the people are fighting back with protests and through civil disobedience, including a railway blockade. Is the latest from Myanmar.
Amid the worldwide condemnation of the military coup in Myanmar, protests have intensified and widespread, with every section of society joining in the demonstrations. Railway workers joined in the protests and blocked train services between Yangon and a southern city on Tuesday. Meanwhile, the UN envoy has now warned the army of severe consequences for any harsh response to the pro-democracy demonstrations.
It must refrain from violence and fully respect human rights, fundamental freedoms, and the rule of law. In her advocacy, Ms. Schreiner Bergener has reinforced that the right of peaceful assembly must fully be respected and that demonstrators are not subjected to reprisals. She's conveyed to the Myanmar military that the world is watching closely, and any form of heavy-handed response is likely to have severe consequences.
It has turned out to be a civil disobedience movement against the military junta. Amid this volatile atmosphere, Myanmar police has filed a second charge against former leader Aung San Suu Kyi. She has already been charged with importing walkie-talkies.
I am conducting this case as an ethical duty of a human rights lawyer. So please support us spiritually, and please support us in any advice, any legal advice from anyone, internationally or nationally, locally. Any legal advice is welcomed by the group.
Myanmar's military guaranteed that it would hold an election and hand power to the winner, denying that its ouster of an elected government was a coup and denouncing protesters for inciting violence and intimidating civil servants. DD India.
Well, the United States said it is disturbed by the reports of additional criminal charges filed against Myanmar leader Aung San Suu Kyi, who remains detained after the military staged a coup on the 1st of Feb. Lawyers of Aung San Suu Kyi said that the police had filed a second charge of violating a natural disaster management law after she was earlier charged with illegally importing walkie-talkie.
Now, White House spokeswoman Jen Psaki on Tuesday announced that the U.S. President Joe Biden is planning to recalibrate the U.S. relations with Saudi Arabia and will communicate through Saudi King Salman bin Abdul Aziz rather than the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Psaki said Saudi Arabia has critical self-defense needs and the U.S. will work with the Saudis on this, even as we make clear areas where we have disagreements and where we have concerns, and that certainly is a shift from the prior administration. She also added, in relation to Israel, Biden plans a call with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Psaki said that Israel is a country where we have an important strategic security relationship and the team there is fully engaged.
Well, a special anti-terrorism court in Bangladesh on Tuesday sentenced 5 people of a banned Islamic militant group, including an army fugitive major, to death and another person to life imprisonment in the 2015 murder of eminent Bangladeshi-American blogger Avijit Roy. A 42-year-old Bangladeshi-born American citizen, Avijit Roy, was murdered by Islamic terrorists when he was walking out of a book fair on the 26th of Feb 2015 at the University of Dhaka. His wife, Rafida Ahmed, was also injured in this attack.
Now, more news from the US, where its President Joe Biden traveled to Wisconsin to press his case for a $1.9 trillion pandemic relief bill in the political battleground state that helped secure his victory in the presidential elections. Biden wants the Congress to pass his $1.9 trillion pandemic relief bill in the coming weeks in order to get $1,400 stimulus checks out to Americans and bolster the unemployment payments. The White House strategy to promote the package and other policy goals involves getting out to the voters. However, the president faces resistance from Republicans over the high price tag of the stimulus bill. Biden and his allies have argued that going big will help boost the economy and bring the pandemic under control in a country where more than 485,000 people have already lost their lives due to COVID-19.
Well, in a study released over the weekend, scientists have found 7 variants of the novel coronavirus in the US with a mutation in the same position in their genes. Louisiana State University Health Science Center said that the public shouldn't have any serious concerns yet if the 7 variants with the same mutation could make the virus more contagious. It further said that for an individual patient, it's almost certain that these differences are not going to mean anything clinically, although it can't be ruled out.
Now in more news from around the world, the massive testing campaign has started in the northern French city of Dunkirk as the variant that was first detected in Great Britain spreads rapidly in the region. The residents of the city as well as of neighbouring towns of Bergues, Képal-Biroc and Beaumont can get tested for free in the testing centres set up specifically to counter the variant. The preliminary results have shown about 10% of the population are infected, with 80% of those infected people testing positive for the variant that was first detected in Britain. Meanwhile, the French government has so far decided not to declare a local lockdown or close schools, and 2,400 additional Moderna vaccine doses have been allocated to Dunkirk to speed up the vaccination drive there.
Well, the Brazilian city of Rio de Janeiro will halt the COVID-19 vaccinations from Wednesday due to the lack of shots. They said that the vaccinations will only begin when a new lot of shots arrive, with delivery not expected until next week. The halt to vaccination illustrates the patchy nature of Brazil's vaccine rollout, which has been blighted with delays and a lack of supplies.
Now in more news, the Dutch Prime Minister has called on the country to respect a nighttime curfew, saying it was still needed to fight the COVID-19 pandemic despite a court ruling earlier on Tuesday that the measure lacked a legal basis. He also maintained that the curfew was needed to prevent a surge in the infections due to the more contagious new mutations of the virus. His COVID-19 policy was dealt a major blow when a court said his government had failed to make clear why it was necessary to use the emergency powers at this stage of the pandemic. The court also said it would rule later whether the curfew should remain in place until the appeal hearing, which is to be held as soon as possible. Now, the curfew, which allows only people with a pressing need to be outdoors between 9 at night and 4:30 early morning, was extended last week until at least 3rd of March. The first curfew in the Netherlands since World War II sparked several days of rioting by the anti-lockdown protesters when it was announced on 23rd of January.
Well, a quick look at updates on COVID-19 from across the world on how the numbers are stacked up. The tally of COVID-19 cases worldwide has surpassed 11 crore 20,718. The total recoveries stand at 8 crore 48 lakhs 33,502. The deadly virus has claimed the lives of 24 lakh 29,000 people globally. United States continues to remain the worst affected from COVID-19, both in terms of infections as well as fatalities. In terms of infections, it's crossed 2 crore 83 lakh 81,000 cases being registered in USA, and the country has reported over 4 lakh 99,991 deaths due to COVID-19. Well, after a look at all that international stories, it's time now to take a look at all the social media websites and also newspaper websites to get you the latest from the world of World Wide Web.
And to take us through what's making it to the headlines in the World Wide Web, we have our colleague Amrit joining us once again. Amrit, it's over to you. Take us through what have you selected for our viewers this morning.
Well, Nancy, apart from what you've already put out on your show, what I've chosen to lead with is what the Hindustan Times has printed prominently in its paper today. It says, Uddhav Thackeray warns of another lockdown amid rising COVID-19 cases. As Maharashtra registers an increase in the cases, a huge jump over January in February. The cases, in fact, yesterday, 3,663 new cases of coronavirus disease were reported, 461 of them in Mumbai itself. This was after 4,092 cases were reported on Sunday. Now, the Chief Minister took a review meeting with the district collectors and the municipal authorities and warned people that if they do not follow the SOPs of COVID-19, his government would enforce another lockdown. So that was sending a stern message. The Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar had also hinted similar day before, where he said that strict measures will have to be enforced and in the coming days. So they limited, they've told the district authorities have been told to limit gatherings of and weddings to just 50, to put temporary hold on provisions for rallies, etc. So this is what the Maharashtra government is doing to sort of deal with the rising cases in the state. The next story that I've chosen is from the Times of India. A Delhi court has said sedition law cannot be invoked to quieten disquiet. Now, an additional session judge of a Delhi court, while granting bail to one of the accused against whom the law of sedition was invoked because he had put a fake video on his Facebook post. The court said that the law of sedition is a powerful tool in the hands of the state to maintain peace and order in society, and it cannot be invoked to quieten any disquiet under the pretense of muzzling miscreants. The observation was made in the bail orders in the set of two men who were booked in the same FIR on charges of sedition for spreading rumors, politics, etc., for allegedly sharing fake videos on social media during the ongoing farmers' protest. And the next story, also Times of India has printed about the farmers' protest. It says, crowds thin at Singhu and Tikri, but farmer leaders say their movement is stronger than ever. Now, the paper says that the crowds are thinning at the protest sites, the major protest sites, that Singhu, Tikri, and Ghazipur. Tents can be seen empty, langar halls are empty. People are going back, but farmer leaders insist that people are just moving from one spot to another, and their movement, protest movement, is as strong as ever. The protest movement has been on for close to about 3 months. Understandably, people are getting tired as the deadlock doesn't seem to get resolved. The other story that the Indian Express has printed, it says, after case shows up on its website, Supreme Court clarifies no content action on Rajdeep. This is regarding journalist Rajdeep Sardesai. Hours after the official website of the Supreme Court showed a suo motu criminal contempt case had been registered against Rajdeep Sardesai over a complaint that he had allegedly made disrespectful comments against the judiciary. The Supreme Court yesterday clarified that it had not initiated any such proceedings, and it was reflected on its website and was placed inadvertently. So that's what's made it to the web portals and newspapers. Back to you, Anil and Nancy.
Well, thank you, Amritpal, for those updates there from the World Wide Web. Appreciate you joining us this morning. Shifting focus to now all updates from the world of sports.
And Liverpool boss Jurgen Klopp says his side defied many people's expectations with their first leg 2-0 victory over RB Leipzig in the last 16 of the Champions League. Mohamed Salah and Sadio Mane struck in the space of 5 minutes near the start of the second half in an away leg played in Budapest's Puskás Arena because of COVID-19 restrictions. While it came after the Reds had fallen to 3 straight defeats in the Premier League, results that have led Klopp to concede defeat in their defence of the English top-flight title. But Tuesday's display was far more like the dominant side of last season, with their greater experience and quality ultimately telling against an error-prone German side.
Well, Kylian Mbappe scored a stunning hat-trick as Paris Saint-Germain ripped Barcelona apart 4-1 in the first leg of the UEFA Champions League last 16 tie at Camp Nou. The night did not start well for last year's runners-up when they fell behind to Lionel Messi's 27-minute penalty. Messi, regarded as one of the greatest players of all time, was then upstaged on his own turf by French World Cup winner Mbappe as PSG ruthlessly exposed the hosts. The second leg takes place on the 20th of March in Paris, by which time PSG hope to have Neymar back from a thigh injury to face his former side.
Now news from the Australian Open, where Novak Djokovic survived another major test at the Australian Open on Tuesday as he overcame Alexander Zverev 6-7, 6-2, 6-4, 7-6 in 3 hours and 30 minutes to reach his ninth semi-final at the Melbourne Park. Now Djokovic will meet Grand Slam debutant Aslan Karatesev for a place in the championship match. The 27-year-old defeated Grigor Dimitrov 2-6, 6-4, 6-1, 6-2 to become the first player in the Open era to reach the semi-finals in his maiden major championship appearance. Djokovic will aim to extend his unbeaten 16-0 record in semi-final and the final matches when he meets Karatesev for the first time at the Melbourne Park.
In women's singles, 7-time Australian Open champion Serena Williams stormed into the semi-finals with a stunning straight set 6-3, 6-3 victory over former world number 1 Simona Halep. Serena put on a masterclass in racing past the Romanian in style on the Rod Laver Arena and dominated the encounter. Also a quick update on what's happened latest in the morning. The world number 1 is knocked out from the Australian Open in the women's singles. Ashley Barty being knocked out by Machkova there in a 3-set thriller. She won the opening set 6-1 when Machkova bounced back strongly to win the next two 6-3, 6-2 to book a place in the semi-finals. So surely exciting times up. The world number 1 in women's singles getting knocked out from the Australian Open.
Alright, after all that sports updates, let's move on now to our next segment and take a look at the health story of the day today.
Well, nutrition can be defined as food at work in the body. We need a variety of nutrients to be healthy. Different nutrients have different functions. Let's understand the importance of nutrients that are required by the body in greater amounts.
Nutrients can be divided mainly into two groups, macronutrients and micronutrients. What are macronutrients and why do we need them? Let's understand from nutritionist Nilanjana Singh. Nilanjana ji, what are macronutrients and how do they help us in staying healthy?
The macronutrients which are needed by our body in fairly large amounts and playing very important roles in well-being. The macronutrients, carbohydrates, proteins and fats are known popularly for the energy providing and bodybuilding roles that they play. What is not common knowledge is that they play a part in supporting immunity and mental health, which is so relevant today. Water is another vital macronutrient for our body's functioning, and we can gauge the importance as 60% of our body weight is water.
What kind of diet provide us with the adequate amount of macronutrients?
A wide range of cereals go towards meeting our carbohydrate needs. Be it wheat, rice, bajra, jowar, ragi, it is good to include much variety, but at the same time avoid excessively refined version and its products. Protein sources that are available to us include meat, eggs, milk, yogurt, cheese, paneer, dals, beans, peas, soya. A major portion of our protein needs should ideally be met through plant sources. We are spoiled for choice as far as fats and oils go. There is mustard, soya, sesame, rice bran, peanut, ghee, butter and more. Although oils are an essential part of our diet, we should stay within the recommended limits. Maintaining hydration by drinking enough water and healthy beverages.
Include variety of foods in your diet to get macronutrients in good quantity. This will help you to attain and maintain good health. Kiran Bharadwaj, DD News.
And with that, let's move on now to our next segment and take a look at the significance of this day in history.
On 17 February 1863, an international committee for relief to the wounded was founded by a group of citizens of Geneva. The name was changed later and is known as the International Committee of the Red Cross. On this day in 1915, Mahatma Gandhi and his wife Kasturba Gandhi arrived in Shantiniketan. They were given a grand welcome by the members of the ashram community, even in the absence of Rabindranath Tagore. It was on 17th February 1996, NASA's Discovery program began as the Near Shoemaker spacecraft lifted off on the first mission ever to orbit. It landed on an asteroid 433 Eros. On this day in 2008, Kosovo declared itself a nation, mounting a historic bid to become an independent and democratic state backed by the US and key European allies. It was, however, bitterly contested by Russia and Serbia.
And let's now move on to our next segment and take a look at the weather conditions for today. There's strong wind discontinuity in the lower levels over central India with the moisture inflow from the Bay of Bengal that's likely to move southwestward and persist up till tomorrow. Now under this influence, light to moderate rainfall at a few places with isolated thunderstorm, lightning and hail very likely over Madhya Pradesh, Vidarbha and Chhattisgarh during the next 24 hours. Light to moderate rainfall at a few places with isolated thunderstorm, lightning and hail very likely over Marathwada and Madhya Maharashtra during today and tomorrow, and over Jharkhand, Telangana and North Interior Karnataka tomorrow. Now also under the influence of a feeble western disturbance, isolated rainfall or snowfall very likely over Uttarakhand during today and tomorrow. And let's also take a look at how the temperature is going to be in your city for today.
Well, fag end of breakfast news here today, but remember that we always have a campaign running for you, a campaign that's called Mask Up India, where we are urging you to wear your mask as you step out of your house. Remember, if you care for your loved ones, do not forget to wear your mask as you step out of your house. It's difficult to smile with a mask on, but remember, let your smile change the world and not let the world change your smile. But keep smiling and have a safe and wonderful day ahead.
Absolutely, it's a special campaign that we are running for you. It's a simple task to wear your mask, and very important to stay protected and to also protect your loved ones. So before we go, we'll also be wearing a mask on our way out. And before we end the show, we're leaving you with the glimpses of the Tehri Lake Festival in Uttarakhand. Take a look at those beautiful visuals this morning, and we wish you a great and a safe day ahead. Thanks for being with us.
Bye-bye.